Hi everyone. I thought that I would start kind of a series of videos talking about the different ways that I journal. And I thought that I would kick it all off talking about how I do my quiet time journaling, which could be called scripture journaling. Um, whatever your beliefs are, you could probably apply these things to that. But this is the way that I choose to do it. And I just wanted to share the different ways that I have tried and that I've had success with, or that, really helped me learn. So, one thing I wanted to say is that I do like these kind of little notebooky type things for that, because I tend to write kind of a lot, so they're not really expensive and they're lined. I've used the journals that I've made. I've used hardbound journals, but these, I just kind of like these the best. So let's get started and see what I have for you. So to start off with here, I wanted to talk about, this is when I was reading through Psalms, and just an example here, I always write like the chapter, the address is what I call it, where it's found in the Bible. And as I read, I just, he says, Shepherd of Israel. And that kind of stuck out with me. And I'm not the best drawer, y'all. I hope you just aren't turned off by that. But these are supposed to be little sheep. And, like it says, turn us to yourself. That was one of his pleas. So it made me think of an arrow. And then it says, look down, see our plight. Strengthen me, revive us. So I thought of defibrillators. That's just, visual ways I learn very well with in school and, in my personal learning. So I've learned to apply that as to this. The next way that I wanted to show you is that, like here, some chapters are short in Psalms, so I did several, but like this is a good example of comparing and contrasting. Like he gives descriptions about the Lord and he gives descriptions about himself, and forgive me if I'm wrong, but I think 97 was David, and so he would talk about himself. And like victory stood out to me in 98 and wanted to make that really big. And in 99, different descriptions of king and exalt stood out to me. So whenever I write things really big or, and just kind of little descriptions, some reason they stick with me better. So I really enjoy this method. Next, I wanted to show you some of the ways that I did Psalms 119. Now that's a huge chapter. It's right smack dab in the middle, and it's lengthy, but it's one of my favorites. And so, I just said joyful and some of the things he said about that, and then I wrote, the address, verse 1 to 4, and things that he says, I will, and, encourage me, and like understanding stood out. Some more I wills. Like here he says, your promise revives me. It comforts me in all my troubles. And that's a heart verse to me. So I put it in a heart. This made me think of an arrow. The anchor. And putting it in different, I'm sorry for the shaking, put it in different boxes kind of helps me too. Expectation, pressure, stress, your commands equal joy, like just different ways of writing it out. The comparing and contrast is a favorite of mine. So that's that journal. So that was through Psalms. And the next I wanted to share with you was whenever I start a particular book of the Bible, I always ask myself the 5 little questions, I don't know if any of you took journalism, but you learn this in those classes, and it's also part of the precept method, and that is to ask yourself the who, what, when, where, why, and how. So the first thing you ask is who. Who wrote the book and who was it to? Then you ask yourself the what. What was the book about? And then the where. Where was it written? Get out a map. A lot of Bibles have those in the back. You can look online. I use the internet a lot. See where that place is at. Where was it at the time of Jesus, and where, or, right after Jesus in this case of Acts. And then where is it? What is it now? Because places have changed since then. Then you ask yourself the who, what, when, where, the why. Why was the book written? Certain apostles and disciples wrote books to certain churches. So, like, what was that church? What were they going through at that time? What did history look like at that time? Kind of, even go outside the Bible and look at what history looked like at that time. And, kind of envision the church at that time. And then the why was it written, and the how, which that's always kind of a hard one for me, but the way I look at that is how was it written, because some books are a lot different than the other books and the writing style. Psalms is a lot different than Acts. So I just kind of write those things all out as I get started. And you don't always have to make it all colored and stuff like that, but I was just really pumped about studying Acts in depth like I did. So here is an example of another method that I've tried called the SOAP. SOAP. Just a quick little abbreviation there, and or acronym. And so S is for the scripture. So say I'm reading Acts 5. What scripture totally stood out to me in that chapter? What verse totally stood out to me in that chapter? And write it out. There's a lot of power in writing something out that you're studying. It's a memorization tool, and you learn and get little insight as you do write it out. It's like, because you can read it, and then when you write it, you just see a totally different way. O is for observation. When I read this, what do I see? What people? So like in this case, I was, introduced, I guess you could say, to Ananias and Sapphira. Who were they? What did they do? What made them, why were they included in the Bible? Here that the Sadducees were jealous, that's something I picked up on, or so just things that you observe. A is for application. How does this apply to life, to my life, to life in general? And then the last is P, and that I don't always write the P because that's for prayer, and so I say that aloud a lot, or I just think it, or sing or something, but sometimes I do write it out. No, what was I going to say about this? Oh, that's just more of the A. Oh, here we go. This is an example of kind of how I use the method of using the boxes as I'm reading. Stephen was in front of the council, and I really like the person as Stephen. That was such an amazing character. But he went before the council, and just as I'm reading, I'm writing in the little boxes. I don't know. I just like that. It seems to work for me. And this one, again, this is asking the who, what, when, where, why, and how. You can always write that out. You can do that on every chapter. That's not just at the beginning of the book. You do that all the time throughout the book as you're reading, because the people change. Paul, in his letters, he's going, in his mission journeys, he's going all over the place, So you definitely want a map for those, trust me. And then, like here, the character of, or I call them characters, but they're people. The person of Bernice, she was an interesting lady. So I chose to go outside and just kind of look her up and learn, I have commentaries and stuff, and I know in precept you're not supposed to look at those right offhand, but I am a people person, and so I like to know a little bit more about people. So those are things that I learned about her. Next, I'm almost done. I don't have that many. Here I chose to write this is when I moved into the book of Proverbs. That was the next place I wanted to start reading. And so I wrote, who was the author? This is, my who, what, when, where, why, and how. And it was Solomon, and he was King David's son and king of Israel. What's the purpose for the book? Do I want this in my life? How do instruction, knowledge, and understanding relate to wisdom? So I'm asking myself questions as I'm reading the book. Next, I just want, here's an example more of comparing and contrasting. He talks about actions, and then each one, well, not each one, but most of them, he gives you a benefit of them. So you're like comparing and contrasting. And then here I just wrote the verse out. And this day I just did some drawing, a little owl. I found that image on Pinterest and tried to draw it myself because I just like those eyes. It looked kind of cool. And then here I wanted to show you more comparing and contrasting. He talks about in Proverbs, King Solomon, he's talks about the eye, the fingers, the heart, the friend, and so I just drew it out here, the different, to kind of reflect those 5 things. So that is the way that I do my scriptural journaling, and if you do these things, I would love to see how you do it, because this is a very important part of my life, and I love to learn about God and how I can become more like Him. So if you have a method that you use, I would love to see how you do it. Thank you so much for watching, and I will be back with the next part of this little series of videos. Thank you.